Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass, sponsored by SimQuips. I'm your host Roy Weller, and tonight we are at Watkins Glen in New York State for the finale of our series. And as the Porsche Cups take to the track for their qualifying 10 minutes, we can have a look at the standings in the Porsche Cup class, and it is Joe Wilson who still leads the way on 724 points ahead of Matthew Parry and Jens Nielsen. Johan Leff coming in P4 just ahead of John Sawyer and Jerome Eckhard, with Florent Damour leading for Les Nitro, Martin Coy and Maya van Dijk rounding out the top 10. And as our first driver to go onto a flying lap is Balázs Fehér, the Hungarian train driver himself. We'll jump on board with Balázs and take a flying lap of this Watkins Glen's International Circuit. And coming down towards the first corner, it's a heavily cambered corner. Remember, these braking markers here at Watkins Glen are feet markers, not meetable. The braking distances aren't extremely long on the circuit. As we fly into the flat out first sector of the circuit. Really, that exit from turn one so important here as it builds up to this run all the way down towards the bus stop chicane. As we look for the hut on the left side on the brakes, taking all the apex curb. We chuck it into 1, 2, 3 and 4 apexes. Bus stop chicane. And it was tentative on the throttle there from Fehér. You could hear delay, a little bit of a tentative application, and we're on the way again as we come down into the boot section of the circuit, down towards the hill into toe corner. It's a off camber uphill turn, can be tricky, very easy on the braking zone being uphill, but getting the car into the apex is not helped by the track layout. We head down towards hill, spotting the braking marker. The car turned in nicely, and use a lot of this run out. The always a little bit deceptive how early you can get on the throttle through that corner as we come through the hairpin. Again, scrubbing slightly wide of the apex there is Fehér. As we come down into the final two corners, chucking it in, using plenty of the exit curb. Can use more than that. The curbing there all counts as part of the track. Come through the final corner, barely missing the wall on the left hand side and crossing the line for a 1:47.9 from Fehér as Johan Leff setting the time there with a 1:46.7, 1 whole second faster than Fehér. And Matthew Parry taking the number 2 slot on the grid for now with a 1:46.987. As I look down our standings, can I see Joe Wilson? I cannot at the moment. Is our championship leader not going to be here for the final race of the season? That is disappointing. We have a 37 car grid for tonight's race. And check in to see who else we have. The return of Luke Tranmer, no less, up into P2, splitting Leff and Parry. Just 1.5 tenths off of our provisional pole sitter. With Bjorn King in P4 at the moment. And doing very well at this track tonight is Chris Wright up in P5, our series sponsor. And just within that 1 second of the provisional pole time. As Jens Nielsen sets a time 1.1 tenths quicker than Johan Leff, take provisional pole position. as he heads out onto another lap, and it wasn't long lived as Matthew Parry, well, sorry, Johan left, then Matthew Parry jumped to the top. The times are improving all the while. And it is now Matthew Parry who holds the provisional pole position with 1:46.1 with just over 4 minutes remaining in this qualifying session for the Porsche Cups. Joining into the top 10 is now Maya van Dijk with a 1:47.6. Neatly behind, between Bjorn King and Chris Wright. And in P8 we've got John Sawyer. I would usually see up in the top 10 as well. So, very competitive order for tonight's race. Should see some close racing, as long as someone can get closer to Matthew Parry actually, who is 3.5 tenths clear of the rest of the field at the moment. As Christopus Skapas in a time of 1:47.7 gets himself P8 for now. As we check in with Luke Tranmer, who's got themselves up into P2. And is going quick on this lap. We've also got Jens Nielsen and Bjorn King going quick on their laps as well. There could be some drivers looking to jump forward as we come into the last few minutes of this qualifying session. With, well, just a couple of corners left to go, and Luke Tranmer is now 3 tenths down on his previous best, so will not be improving on this lap. One driver who might jump their way up, Stupas Skapas. One corner left to go. This could be a sizable improvement. 2 drivers ahead. King and Van Dijk very close together. You could see Skapas jump up to P6 as they come to cross the line. And that they do. The 1:47.3, just 2 tenths of a second away from Chris Wright, who's jumped himself up into P5. As Matthew Parry going quicker and quicker out front. On for another quick lap. And we'll check in with Balazs Fahit, the Sparkle Pony on the side of the car. And currently 2.5 tenths up on their previous best, following the number 85 car of our pole sitter Matthew Parry. As he comes around the final few corners, this could be a sizable improvement to jump here up ahead of Skapas. If he keeps it all together, he comes to cross the line, and not quite fast enough to beat Skapas, but does jump up to P7 with 1:47.482. 1 flyer left to go. And the question to be asked is, can anyone unseat Matthew Parry from the front of the grid? A driver who's not... Whoa! Well, definitely not going to be troubling the drivers at the top with that sideways movement out of the corner. Chris Wright just pushing a little too hard on his final lap. Has chucked 10th in the bin with that one, and was looking like a decent improvement. Probably wouldn't have been enough to challenge Nielsen, so I guess he really did need to give it some there, but could have cemented his P5 and now leaves himself open to a challenge from those drivers still left to complete their final lap. As we'll check back in with our current pole sitter Matthew Parry, who is setting the timing board alight, currently 3 tenths of a second up on his previous best. And this could be a jump into the 1:45s if he can keep this lap together. Just 2 corners left to go for Matthew Parry. Using every little bit of the track he can as he comes through the final corner. It's down towards the line. And it is a 1:45.995. As was that a Balazs here into the wall I just saw? I don't think so. But Luke Tranmere not going to be challenging Matthew Parry, I don't think, but could be a decent improvement of his lap time as well. He comes around the final corner. And in the end, I don't think much in the way of an improvement. Nope, 1:46.490 is all he has to offer. And that is it for our Porsche Cups. As I think someone is doing donuts in the pit lane. And we will move over to someone slightly quieter. A much quieter car. Might want to turn your headphones up. They do have engines in them. They do make a noise. And as Oscar Yaram comes around the final corner, we will jump on board. Use this opportunity to take a quick look at the TCX standings as we see a car off doing donuts. Just, yeah, I can imagine that would be quite distracting. There's Oscar Yaram running out wide, I believe, of track limits there. But not too much of a worry for Yaram as he is over 50 points in the lead in this championship. Unlikely he's going to see his lead challenged in this race. And then in P2 with 698 points is Andre Thierry. Anthony Victor Chappelle not really in touching distance there in P3. And then we've got a closer battle behind with Callum Scotland, Marco Lorenzon, all challenging for that P3 in the championship, with Jules Flint, Alex Perry, Lennon Bromfield, Carlos Jimenez and Makao Minsky rounding out the top 10. Into toe corner, climbing up the hill. These cars struggle with understeer at the best of times and give them an off-cambered uphill corner, and well, you can be assured they're going to struggle even more. We come now into the final sector of the track. Darren Ross this season has been setting the pace in the qualifying sessions and the races, but we'll see how much of an advantage does our championship leader have around this Watkins Glen circuit. Just one corner left to go. That's an important one. Ooh, very close to the wall. As we come to cross the line. And yep, it was an invalid first lap there from Yaram. So Max Davies will be the first to put a time on the board, and it is a 2:02. As Alex Perry in everyone's favourite Shrek livery for 2:03.7. And that's Ilsium 20.7. Barnes also with a 20.7. P3 driver in the championship, Anthony Victor Chappelle, currently running on a 2:01.5. As Callum Scotland jumps up to P2 with a 2:0.4, just under 0.2 off of Max Davis's time. As we check in with Yaram, who is currently heading down towards Hill Corner. Just 3 corners left to go. So a long lap here for and I think that was within track limits there for Yarem, but it's not going to be quick when you leave the racing surface and head into the wall. So let's see what Yarem can put on the board. But has he left part of his car in that barrier as well? Let's see if that has affected his pace any. Well, even with that slam into the wall, Oscar Yarem setting the pace with 159.565. And well, that shows you how much of an advantage this driver has over the rest of the field. Even a absolute sideways blast into the wall doesn't seem to have cost him much at all. We'll check in to see what sort of times was Yarem doing in that final sector. So final sector between Yarem and Davies, only a tenth of a second difference away of Davies. So some time there to find for Yarem, but finding half a second in that second sector is Oscar Yarem. So Davies might know where he needs to find that pace. He needs to get out there and show what he can do. Callum Scotland up in P3 in the purple tartan car. And using just a little bit too much of the inside curb there through the bus stop chicane, catching the wheel behind the curbing, and that does unsettle the car somewhat. And Scotland still somehow up on this lap, only 9/10 of a second off of our provisional pole sitter, so does have some pace to find. Chappelle also going strong behind, as that's Marco Lorenzon off the circuit. Gets himself back underway. Or back to the garage, I should say. And we'll be back underway fairly shortly. Scotland. 3 corners left. Sorry, 4 corners left to go. 3 now. And he is finding some time. This could be a lap time to... Oh, okay. I think that was an instant commentator's curse. What did happen there to Callum Scotland as he came through that corner? I think he got a little bit excited, went in a lot too deep. That is lap over for Scotland. And interesting choice to return to the pit lane there for Scotland, as he could have come around, crossed the line, and got another lap in. But has now destined himself to P3 at best in class. As Max Davies now the only driver who could possibly unseat Yarem, and is going for it at the moment. Currently 5.5 tenths of a second off of our provisional pole sitter, and running somewhat wide of the apex through toe corner. That is not going to be what he's looking for. I'm now into the final sector. This will be the final lap for Davies. They've just under 5 seconds left to go. And in the end, I don't think there's going to be an improvement here for Davies, so he will be the first one to see the checkered flag. And it is P2 at best for Davies, as we have just a few more drivers left to complete their final flying laps. As Jewel Flint, Sans livery, and that, I think that is just a pure carbon car. You hate to see it. I wonder if there was an issue with deliveries tonight, but was Flint one of the only ones looking still possible to improve, other than Vaboda, who is currently some 20 seconds off the pace and looking to find 7 seconds on this lap. Perhaps will need an improvement. And as it crosses the line up into P28 overall, and that will be that for our qualifying session. As we wait for our drivers to get ready on the grid, we can just run you through the top 3 from each class in the Porsche Cups. It is Matthew Parry ahead of Luke Tranmer and Johan Leff. And in the BMWs, it is Oscar Yaram ahead of Max Davies and Callum Scotland. Now we can have a quick look at our standings. Is Joe Wilson leading the way in the Cups. And in the TCX standings, Oscar Yaram ahead of Andre Thierry and Anthony Chappelle. So, as our drivers now do finally line up on the grid. And jump back over and go for a grid walk. And in pole position, it is, as I said, Matthew Parry, in contention for the championship here, with the absence of Joe Wilson. Remains to be seen how things will fall out, especially with the drop rounds coming into play. But Matthew Parry, potentially with an opportunity here. Then in P2, we have got returning driver Luke Tranmer. Hasn't participated much this season, but has put himself right in the mix there with good qualifying lap. In P3 is Johan Leff, our season 20 champion. And for many parts of the season, title challenger. In P4 is Jens Nielsen, whoever who would love to get that final spot in the top 3 come the end of this series. P5 of a great qualifying session was Maya Van Dijk. They'll be starting alongside Mr. Chris SimQuips Wright. In P7 is John Sawyer. He's starting alongside Christopus Skapas. In P9 is the Hungarian train driver, Mr. Balázs Fehir, running the Sparkle Pony livery, with Bjorn King in P10. P11 is Rodius Partes. Will be starting alongside Marit Chatil. In P13 is Martin Coy, with Jordi Navarro, the first of the top drap drivers, starting alongside. In P15 is Jakub Borovic, and they will be alongside second of the top drap drivers, Jordi Keno. In P17 is Florent de Moor, starting alongside F. Martin. In P19 is Valenis Nitro, starting alongside the flame liveried Slavek Klinger. P21 is the final car in our Porsche Cup, and that is Jarno Brisnik. Turn our attention to the BMWs, and starting on pole position for that class will be Oscar Yaram, and they'll be starting alongside, and hopefully not inside, Max Davies. In P24 is Callum Scotland, will be starting alongside Hussein Hamilton. In P26 is Anthony Victor Chappelle, and they'll be starting actually in front of Daniel Barnes. In P28 is Jules Flint, with Ignaz Ilsium in P29. In P30 is Rostek Shaboda, and they'll be starting alongside the Shrek liveried Alex Perry. After that crash in qualifying, Marco Lorenzo will be starting down in P32, and they will be alongside Marco Lantinier, a new driver to our grid tonight. In P34 is Ivan Villa, another a top trap driver. They'll be with Mikhail Arminsky. P36 is Brad Clark with Marcel Gies in P37. And then rounding out our grid tonight is Nicholas Max in P38. As we turn our attention back to Matthew Parry, we come into the final sector of this racetrack, just moments away from getting this race started. And a reminder for those of you who may not have watched our series before, ahead of us, we have a 30-minute race with a mandatory pit stop. That is a 25-second stop in the pits for a fuel change and 30 seconds if you want to change your tyres. As the drivers come around the final corner, we get ready to get this race underway, and everyone, please keep your fingers crossed that we all make it through the bus stop chicane alive on the first lap. It will be a challenge, but I'm sure these drivers are up to it. Actually, no, I'm not that sure. They may go bowling. We'll see. As we wait for the green flag. And we are racing at Watkins Glen as we come down towards the first corner. Decent start from Matthew Parry as we head into the first corner. Parry ahead of Tranmere as they go and run side by side. Looking back in the field, it looks like Oscar Yarem has lost out to both Max Davies and Callum Scotland. At the top of the field, it is Matthew Parry leading the way ahead of Luke Tranmere and Jens Nielsen, as we've got big contact there. Chris Wright into the wall, but we'll keep with these drivers as we come through the bus stop chicane, and more drivers crashing before we even get to the chicane. We've had an incident like this in Spa before, but I don't think I've seen one like this at Watkins Glen, as we have got a whole heap of cars in a whole heap. As Chris Wright has returned to the pit lane, he is not in first position, unfortunately. He is very much not. As we do not have red flags here at Pitskill. What happens, and our drivers certainly did go bowling, and that is a lot of cars into the wall, but Matthew Parry has come out of that one very well. And Max Davies, avoiding the carnage as he picks his way through, is leading the TCX field ahead of Callum Scotland and Oscar Yarem behind, as they've got a few of the BMWs to make their way through. BMWs that are looking a little bit worse for wear, as we've got Slavak Klinger coming through. Hef Martin not looking in too bad condition, maybe just slowing to let people have a crash in front of them. And Hef Martin looking to have a car which they can push forward with now, as we've got 4 Porsche Cups and 2 BMWs in the pits. Oh, that's another 2 Porsche Cups in the pits. Yeah, a lot going on in this race, but not so much going on for Matthew Parry, who now has a gap of 2.7 seconds back to Luke Tranmere. And let's see if we can take a look back at a replay from the start. Our number... This is contact at the start between our leaders in the TCX class. A little bit of door banging as we came in. That was our race start in TCX. So that explains how Oscar Yarem dropped back. And Oscar Yarem, I think, a little bit of a Lando Norris on the starts. has often dropped positions away from the grid. And this race no different, as we see what happened to the 109 car. That is Chris Wright. Oh, that was another hit for Chris Wright. I think there was an incident before that for him, but it's not showing up on my sheet. So, well, not the race that Chris Wright would have wanted. But things going well for Max Davies, who has got a little bit of a buffer back to Callum Scotland, who's finding himself under real pressure from Oscar Yaram. Now, this race has become quite exciting, as Yaram moving well out of the way for the Porsche Cups, making their way through. That is Hef Martin, making their way past now Callum Scotland. Scotland gets a nicer time of it, just being able to be passed on the straight, as Jens Nielsen and Johan Leff going side by side through the first sector. Jens Nielsen's come out on top of that, got the position off of Johan Leff, but Leff right up under his rear wing, and is following him through the bus stop chicane closely. In the background we can see Mai van Dijk and Bjorn King making their way through as well. And what car is that between them? That is definitely an out of position car though. Is that Laurent de Moore? No, Yellow Wing Mirrors. I have no idea who that is. Oh no, that is Johan Leff. That is Leff. God damn it. Sorry Leff, I asked you to get a livery and now I completely forgot what it was. I was looking for the boring onion coloured car. I looked at my timing tower and I saw that Oscar Yaram had made his way past Callum Scotland. And, oh, well, I think we can see how that happened. There's a big old bump and another bump and, well, a big old bump into the barrier. So, well, Callum Scotland has allowed Oscar Yaram through into P2 with that incident and has dropped himself down into P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in class. Not going especially well for Callum Scotland. It is not anymore. Side by side go Johan Leff and Jens Nielsen. I think this might just be a rinse and repeat here, as Leff has got himself ahead onto the long run down to the bus stop chicane. But this is an awesome opportunity for slipstream here for Jens Nielsen. And let's see, can he get by the bus stop chicane? Well, can he just get himself alongside? But no, not quite so much slipstream in these Porsche Cup cars. I think if that was a GT3 we would have seen them breeze past, but not so much downforce, not so much drag on these Porsche Cups. As Mai van Dijk and Bjorn King loom in waiting as this battle continues. Down in the TCXs, Max Davies still has a 3.6 second lead over Oscar Yaram, so we'll keep an eye on that battle. But at the moment, Johan Leff and Jens Nielsen trying to pick their way through the back marker traffic here. That is Jarno Bruznik up ahead, who is a lap down on them already, just 7 minutes into this race. And also we can see Chris Wright there, who with his early race incident has already made his trip through the pit lane, I believe having served his mandatory, actually maybe not serving his mandatory pit stop. No, Chris Wright needs to go to the pits again. It is not a fun race for him, as Jens Nielsen dives off into the pit lane, leaving Johan Leff to carve his way through this traffic. Jens Nielsen will be hoping that this traffic holds up left for a little while, but as Chris Wright moves out the way, it's a fairly uninterrupted run through the first sector for Leff, as King on the tail of Mai van Dijk as they come through, sweeping first sector of this racetrack. Van Dijk already going defensive to the inside, but drifts out to take the racing line, opening the door there for King. They come through side by side, and respectful racing room given there by both drivers means that Meyer van Dijk able to hold on to P4 in this race for now. Behind them, Stupa Skapas has got Marek Shatil and Jano Borovic company. Borovic all over the back of Shatil at the moment. And looking like they've got a decent amount of pace. Might want to opt for an early pit stop during this race. They could actually unleash some of that pace. As down in the Porsche Cups. But Porsche Cups, these aren't Porsche Cups. In the TCXs. Battle over P3. With Svoboda sniffing all over the back of Anthony Victor Chappelle. This in itself not necessarily a largely consequential battle, and well, definitely not now, as Svoboda sees himself sliding sideways off of the circuit. And Svoboda, who did not put in the best of qualifying performances, it must be said, actually coming alive in the race. And up into P18 overall, and that is battling out for P3 in class. So definitely doing something right once it gets into the race session. Oh, it's Bjorn King. A better run through the bus stop and has managed to get alongside Meyer van Dijk through the loop. That is impressive work as we come down the hill through the corner, which I will call Ankle. Doesn't actually have a name, I don't think, but if we've got toe and hill, this one could be Ankle Corner. And Bjorn King still looking for a way through. He's managed to get alongside multiple times now, as we see the blue flags are waving for Chris Wright, not having the race that he would have wanted for his finale in his own series. That's a gap out front, 3.5 seconds. Back to Luke Tranmer. Johan left another 2 seconds behind in this battle that we're watching. 3.8 seconds off of that as well as, well, what on earth happened to Chris right there? I wasn't watching that. And let's see if we can get that from another angle. Where's the helicopter gone? Oh, and I think that is a BMW who didn't realise that the Porsche Cup had already got alongside him, as they both head into the pit lane. I think that was just a little bit of misreading there from the BMW. As the helicam is god awful around this track. Bjorn King has got a better run of it this time around. But still, Meyer van Dijk defending well. King unable to find a way through. This is the battle for currently P3 in the race. Was Matthew Parry and Johan Leff have dived into the pit lane. Oh, sorry, this is battle for P2. As the BMW gets well out of the way. Behind them, we have got Skapas looking up the inside of Marek Shatil, diving down into Ankle Corner. And that is a bold move up the inside. We'll turn to the outside here for toe. But it is a corner you can carry the speed around the outside and just hope to pin it on exit. And they have done so. And it looks like they're going to be side by side coming down towards Hill Corner. As Skapas holding on still. Will they be able to get the inside for the next corner? As Borovic also looking on in anticipation. Will be wanting to try and pick his horse here as he follows them through his next couple of corners. He picks the right car, can easily see himself picking off at least one of them. And Skapas losing out Jarno Borovic. That is a good move there from Borovic, and if they can just hold on through these first couple of corners. Oh, looks like Borovic has run a bit wide there. Could find themselves now under pressure from Skapas and Navarro. And we're going to keep with this battle through here, because when we go 3 wide through the S's, or even 4 wide, chaos can happen. And wow, this is close racing as they head into the braking zone and through the bus stop chicane. And Borovic has held on ahead of Skapas and Navarro. Not quite sure how, but that was solid racing from the trio there. And Marat Chatil has been able to scuttle off into the distance as a bold dive up the inside from Skapas. Well read there from Borovic, giving the space. And allowed Skapas to soar on through with no contact. And now has got himself a buffer of a second back to the P7 driver. As our leader in the BMWs peels into the pit lane, Oscar Yaram, staying out on circuit, has now got a few Porsche Cups for company. As we come towards the halfway point in this race. And so far, looking like the net leaders in each of the classes are Matthew Parry in the Porsche Cups, and in the BMWs it is Max Davies, who's just dived into the pit lane. Once again they come down, the start finish straight. It is Skapas all over the back of Borovic. Skapas looks to the inside. This will be a bold one to try and send from that far back into the bus stop. It's not a heavy braking zone, and they're getting held up by the BMW ahead as the driver moves out of the way. And Borovic, patience there, is now up into P5, just behind Marat Chatil, but Skapas all over their rear. Neither driver opting to break this battle with a pit stop are giving us an action hit. As behind, Demore and Navarro battling hard over what is now P6. As we try and decide where to look, and it is side by side go Demore and Navarro as Skapas sends one up the inside of Borovic. Makes the move stick for now. And they get a decent enough exit to be able to hold on into the hairpin. As Jakub Borovic and Skapas head their way through this final sector, laden with BMWs. As, oh, this could end badly. As Borovic dives into the pits. Ooh, and barely avoids the back of the overslowing BMW ahead. And it is real chaos here tonight. And what else do we have out on track? Well, we have a battle over the last place. Well, we did have a battle over, but that is a very slow, and they stopped BMW. Okay, we'll ignore that. So what else do we have happening out on track at the moment? Looks like we have got a hell of a lot of field spread at the moment. Our nearest battle on track, this between Martin Coy and Aridus Partes. Just a battle over P14. As we take a look, and I think chat is right, it does look like Bjorn King has taken new tyres. 32 seconds stopped in the box, but with a 7-second gap to make up, it's going to be a tall order that to find that much time over a lap for Bjorn King, and also giving Meyer van Dijk a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of a chance to relax. I'm not sure this is going to end out so well for King. As Balashve hit, dives into the pits as well. Check back in with Pates. And Matthew Parry now up into P5. The driver's ahead of him, sitting out of position. Currently holding the fastest lap of the race, a 1:46.2. And looks like no one has managed to get close to that. The closest, Luke Tranmere, with 1:46.5. And up in front of BMWs is Max Davies, 1.8 seconds ahead of Oscar Yaram. So this gap still has the potential to come down and leave us with a close end of race battle, as Chappelle, coming out of the pits now, is currently now down in P21 and has got themselves a stop-go 30 penalty for their troubles, so I can only imagine that is for speeding into the pit lane. Never a fun penalty to get. As Martin Kruij threading the needle there is Artes, with Corey able to follow them through. And I think that's killing in the background. Nope, I think that's a different car. Difficult to try and read which car is which in this just from a glance, because they're all out of position. I believe that is Navarro. Behind Navarro, who is currently no, that is not Navarro. Navarro's in P12. I think that's another one of the. Maybe Cano. Cano, who's in P32 after incidents. As Hef Martin has picked up a DSQ for their troubles. A very interesting race. Not sure how they picked that one up, but yeah, that's not the penalty you want to be seeing on your screen. As Coy still chasing Partes, this the battle over P13 as it stands. Still, Laurent Demore, Scapas and Luke Tranmere yet to pit. As we have got the mother of all field spread here tonight. Well, the first lap provided chaos, but it has also provided us with not very many fights. As Luke Tranmere dives into the pit lane, we have just two cars left to make their mandatory pit stop. As Matthew Parry comes around the final corner. We've got all three of our Porsche Cups remaining to pit in pit lane. As he comes around the final corner, well, it's not a race challenger. That is, I see Victor Chappelle in a different class emerging from the pit lane. So I don't think Parry will be too worried about that. As Johan Leff has emerged from the pit lane in P2. some 5.5 seconds ahead of Jens Nielsen. So Jens Nielsen with that early pit stop, not profiting from that one. Now Jens Nielsen with a 4-second lead over Luke Tranmer, as Florent de Boer dives in the pit lane, or emerges from the pit lane, and that has removed the final vestiges of any sort of race that we had anywhere on track. The closest we have is Maya van Dijk, now a second behind Luke Tranmer. This is the battle over P4. The front of Van Dijk's car looking a little worse for wear, as Fahir and King do seem to be catching slowly but surely. Fahir not taking tyres in their pit stop. King, we are assuming, did. As up ahead, Luke Tranmer making his way past the BMW traffic. May be helpful for Van Dijk as they get themselves past and through between the corners. Martin Coy, or as you can see, our race leader in the TCX class may be getting a little nervous with the Porsche Cups around him, though they are being very careful as they pick their way through. That gap now between Davies and Yaram, now 1.7 seconds. Flint is moving aside to allow Johan left through. That is bringing him closer to Villa up ahead. Villa still with their indicators on. Rare from a BMW. That must be somewhat distracting for Flint. But thankfully the indicator was pointing the right way there for Nielsen. As I'm not sure. Whoa, there's Flint there very nearly losing the car as he picks his way past Villa and up into P9 in the class. Well, finally we have something of what we could possibly class as a battle on our hands. Bjorn King closing in on Balazs Fahir. This is the battle over P7. Sorry, P6 in this race. Gap at a second now. And King with the newer tyres should have a pace advantage, as the indicators they're still going for Villa. I mean, it is quite on brand for a BMW, isn't it? Never have your indicators on unless you always have them on. Either way, you don't think about your indicators. As Hartes and Navarro also battling out this over P12 on the track as they pick their way past all the BMW back markers. A few little battles emerging out on track now as we come into the final couple of minutes of this race. As we might see a few drivers emboldened to make a move. Chappelle making their way past Clark. Up the inside. As Borovic looks to make their way through as well. And the BMW has noticed them on the inside. And Borovic squeezes his way through. Holds on to P9 in this race. As a little bit of a moment there for Navarro. Barthez looking to carry the speed through this first sector. Looks like Navarro recovered well from that moment through the first corner, and it's not going to present enough of an opportunity to Barthez, I don't think. They are coming up onto the last of the BMWs as it hops its way over the curbs at the chicane. As we come around the final few corners to complete the penultimate lap of this race, Bjorn King is just 0.4 of a second behind Balazs Fahir as they come now past Alex Perry, who stays well out of the way. A couple of cars up ahead, that is, we can see Maya Van Dijk 1.8 seconds up the road from this pair. On the blinkers, trying to get the attention of the BMW ahead. As Fahir going very wide off the circuit, trying to carry the speed back onto the track, but there is a BMW in his way. I'm not sure he's going to be happy about that, but he can't really complain. He did put himself off that track, and the BMW just driving its normal line. But bad timing there for Balazs Fahir, who loses the position to King on the final lap of this race. And whoa, King going very sideways through that corner. And as Pato still trying to find a way by Navarro. Going to try and go for a run down this straight for the final time as they go to the outside and slot in ahead of Jordi Navarro. We check in with our race leader as Matthew Parry comes around the final corner of this Watkins Glen racetrack to see the checkered flag and take the win here in this season finale. Congratulations to Matthew Parry. As 11 seconds down the road, we've got our P2 runner Johan Leff. And across the line, and he'll be followed home by Jens Nielsen and Luke Tranmer. As Maya Van Dijk finishes ahead of Bjorn King and Balazs Fahir. As Stupas Skapas rounds the final corner. Take a P8 in this race. A strong finish for Jakub Borovic, finishing in P9 ahead of Florent Demore, and the driver who's battling earlier on, Marek Schitil. As we're getting finishes outside of the top two in our BMWs, that is Svoboda, Arminsky, Perry in P5, Hamilton in P6, Barnes in P7, Flint in P8 and Vila in P9. But with our top two still out there and yet to finish, Max Davies still leading this race ahead of Oscar Yarem as they come into the final sector. As it was a good start that got Max Davies the lead ahead of Callum Scotland, and Max Davies with the hazard lights on, blinking his way down towards the start-finish line to take the win here at Watkins Glen ahead of Oscar Yarem, who will take P2, and the only two drivers to finish on the BMW lead lap. Oh, what an eventful and yet uneventful race we did have for you this evening. It was, well, it seemed like it condensed all of its action into the first lap. And from then on, I think a lot of our drivers found themselves very, very spread out. And all I can say, thank you very much for watching both tonight and for our entire season. We will have a little bit of a longer ramble at the end of this session as we wait for our standings to be updated and we can crown our winners in both classes. But well, I think while we're here and while we have the time, it is worth us talking about some changes that are coming here for next season. As for season 23, it will no longer be the Porsche Cup and TCX Multiclass. It will be the Porsche... Now I cannot remember the blooming number of the car. One of the GT2s. 934, I want to say. I'm probably wrong. One of those anyway. The long Porsche, the long pork, and TCX Multiclass. So we'll add an interesting little bit of challenge to these races. We'll be, I think, slightly slower through the corners and a lot faster out of them. So should make passing the TCXs a little less frustrating for those of you driving the Porsches. But we'll come back in a couple of weeks to pitskill.io where you'll be able to get yourself signed up for either the whole series or just one-off events if that takes your fancy. But in the meantime, probably worth getting right on over to pitskill.io anyway. Get yourself signed up if you're not already. Get yourself into some races and get yourself your C license. You're going to need that in order to take part in the next season. So I recommend you start that now. Start getting into some of the hourly and daily races that they have hosted over there. Get yourself on the grid. I'd love to see you over there. And yeah, as always, we have our streams on the other channels. And most importantly, this Wednesday is the finale for the GT3 Elite series here at pitskill.io, our most prestigious series where the best of the best drivers will fight it out on track. Who will be the overall champion on season 22. And yeah, also do check out pitskill.io after that season. We can see what sort of things we have planned for our off season. There's usually a couple of fun races over there. Some things which maybe not quite so serious, a bit more entertaining. Try a few things out. It's always a little bit of a laugh. And yeah, take a good opportunity to thank all of our drivers as well for participating and making this such an entertaining series to watch. It's always good to see the well-populated Porsche Cup and BMW M2 grids. Had I think, more than 30 drivers every single race. And well, I think everyone enjoys that, apart from maybe a couple of the Porsche Cup drivers who would really wish there weren't so many BMW M2s. But we do like to drink their tears sometimes. As we still wait for the results to be calculated. I'm sure it won't be too much longer. So I do hope you will join us for the next season. As there'll be hopefully a few more enhancements and additions to the broadcasts as well. Keeping those under wraps for now, but all will be revealed next season. These broadcasts will not be going anywhere. results to be updated. And here we go. I think we can go and take a look at our results. And in the Porsche Cups, it is Joe Wilson who takes the championship, 10 points ahead of Matthew Parry, with Jens Nielsen rounding out the top 3 for our season. So congratulations to our top 3 drivers. We have Johan Leff, John Sawyer, Jerome Eckhard, Laurent Demore, Valenez Nitro, Maya Van Dijk and Balazs Fahir rounding out the top 10. Congratulations to all of our top 15 in the standings. And I think it would be no surprise to anyone with the TCX standings that Oscar Yaram leads the way by over 150 points to take the TCX title. Congratulations to Oscar. That was a well-fought and dominant championship. And then it ended up very close in the end between Andre Thierry and Anthony Victor Chappelle, but there was Andre who took P2 in the end, Chappelle having to make do with P3. Then we have Marco Lorenzon, Callum Scotland, Jules Flint, Alex Perry, Max Davies, Michael Ominski and Lennon Bromfield rounding out our top 10. So congratulations to all of our top 15 in the TCX class. And the final time this season, I will just leave you with the highlights from tonight's race. So thank you again very much for watching. Good night.